A brilliant light pierced the darkness on that first Christmas night. It wasn't the immense star so bright that intrigued experts of the night sky to follow it. It wasn't even the multitude of angelic messengers with a light so intense, so radiant, it frightened brave shepherds to fall to their knees. No, this light was far greater, more powerful than every star and every sun. This light was a baby, a tiny newborn wrapped in cloth, lying in a manger where animals feed. A baby named Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us. Because Jesus was a gift for each one of us, and he arrived with a purpose, to shine light into all dark places. You see, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. A light that shows us there is no place you can go that can escape God's love. No dark corner where his love cannot find you. A light that has the power to cut through any darkness, to calm the most anxious thoughts, and to fill every heart with unspeakable joy. There is a light that shines brightly in the darkness, and his name is Jesus, Light of the world.
Come on in. Merry Christmas, guys.
Hello, Merry Christmas.
Hi.
It is Christmas morning where you are. We have recorded this in advance. By now you've got wrapping paper and bows and ribbons somewhere in the vicinity.
And dark circles from being up half the night putting up your children's toys.
You've got little ones, yes, absolutely.
Or your kids waking up multiple times throughout the night. Mommy, Daddy, is it time to open presents yet? Did Santa come? Because I sure remember those days.
Yeah, we're at the stage now where we have to wake Hannah up most of the time. So
Teenagers, they just sleep.
yeah.
Well, except for Jared. Jared and Alyssa didn't. They would stay up all night because they were so excited about Christmas morning that they would stay in each other's rooms and stay up and sneak and see if their gifts were put out yet.
Right.
I remember it.
Right. So I know some of you are empty nesters. Some of you have a lot of family that doesn't live near you and different things. And that's why we wanted to come this morning and bring you a message about Christmas because Christmas is kind of a different vibe, I think, for everybody, depending on what stage of life you are. And a lot of people have a lot of ideas and thoughts about Christmas, and I think the older we get, our image of Christmas kind of changes.
It does, and I think we have, like you said, we have set in our minds that Christmas is supposed to be a certain way. When it doesn't meet up to that, the anticipation or what we think it's supposed to be, then we get disappointed.
Right.
So we're going to talk just a little bit about some of those things, and
yeah, because Christmas is a lot of things, but when I think about Christmas, and it doesn't matter whether it's Christmas movies or now like we do at church, which is a new thing, relatively new, Christmas at the movies, or even when I think about Christmas when I was a little boy, I always think about traditions.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one thing, and I think most people have Christmas traditions, and it's either ones that you've done since you were small, or it was traditions that you started like you did with our kids when they were small.
Yeah.
And what I want to kind of talk about is maybe the possibility of, no matter what stage of life you're in, maybe you can start new traditions, because traditions kind of sort of will hold you back a little bit. And it's not just at Christmas, but Christmas is so entrenched in tradition.
Right. It's life in general.
Right. Right. This is an application that you can use through life.
And we're learning this now.
Right.
We're learning that things change, and they change sometimes very rapidly. and before your eyes, things will change, and they'll even change when you're not expecting it to change.
And it changes so much, it doesn't resemble what you used to have
Right.
at all. So if you're trying to incorporate the old into the new, it just doesn't fit anymore.
Right. And I think just back from as the earliest memories of Christmas to me, I mean, I can remember opening up some of my Christmas presents and my brother trying to steal them from me, or he would cry because I got something that he didn't get.
Yeah.
You know, and so I remember one Christmas, there's even pictures of us both crying because we were fighting over each other's gifts. And Christmas has changed so much, and you know, people come in your life and they go, and people are alive today and then they pass away, and so things change.
And kids grow up.
And kids grow up.
Yeah. So there's some weird Christmas traditions, and I did a little bit of research about traditions around the world, because you know Christmas is a very American kind of a concept as far as the way we celebrate it. So I kind of did some research about Christmas around the globe.
So I'm going to read to you one. This is Ukraine. One of their favorite festive traditions is not one for those with a fear of creepy crawlies. And honestly, when he gave me this, I couldn't believe that this is just like a Christmas tradition.
I think it's one we should start, actually. Keep reading.
Where we would have garland trees and wreaths, as you can see, all the greenery, what you see behind us, all the pretty stuff. Ukrainians use decorations that mimic the natural formation of a spider's web with the shimmering dew. And, you know, like when you go out in the morning and you see a spider's web and it does shimmer, it kind of does look like glitter. Like, that is kind of pretty.
Yeah.
But when you think about where that came from and how that appeared there, that's not so pretty. But the tradition goes back to a folk tale about a poor widow who could not afford to decorate a tree for her children. Legend has it that spiders in the house, in her house, took pity on the family and spun beautiful webs all over the tree, which the children awoke to find on Christmas morning.
See how friendly spiders are?
Spiders' webs are also considered to be lucky in the Ukrainian culture. I guess like Charlotte's Web. You know,
Hey,
that spider.
So
was friendly.
maybe we can start a new Christmas tradition of like letting spiders loose in the house, and
Make
they'll
our-
do the decorations.
Make our own decorations.
Yeah. And see, we don't have to put the tree up and stuff. We'll just let the spider do the work.
And see how odd that is? This is normal for them. This is their normal tradition.
Right.
But to us, we look at that. That is so strange.
Right.
That is so odd.
One of the favorite ones that I found was in Japan. So in 1974, because Japan doesn't celebrate Christmas, it's not a national holiday in Japan. So in 1974, Kentucky Fried Chicken started a celebration on Christmas Eve. And they call it Kentucky for Christmas. And they set these big statues of Colonel Sanders outside the stores, and they dress him up like Santa Claus. And all of the Japanese families go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, and they think they're eating an American meal. They have marketed it over there, and they think that all Americans eat Kentucky Fried Chicken for Christmas. So they're going down to get their American on. And it's gotten so big over the years that now you have to reserve on an app a table at Kentucky Fried Chicken if you want to eat there on Christmas Eve. Yeah, to get you, because they're celebrating like the Americans, because all the Americans eat Kentucky Fried Chicken.
That is insane.
So that's their tradition.
And see, that's odd too.
Yes, but you know what? We have a lot of odd traditions. There's a lot of things we do that we don't realize are traditions. And we don't really know why we do it. Like, why do you close your eyes when you pray?
I've often thought about that myself. Like, who said that you have to close your eyes to pray, and why do you do it?
Because preachers will say every head bowed and every eye closed. And I get that to a degree, because if you're asking people to do something that they may feel embarrassed to respond to.
Yeah, but where'd that come from?
Well, I understand that part. But what I'm talking about is more like if you're saying grace around the table and one of the kids is peeking, and they get a wooden spoon on their hand.
Close your
eyes. Like, why? Because when you read the Bible, you'll read like Jesus was looking up when he prayed.
Right.
And Elijah was looking up when he prayed. But then all of a sudden, somewhere, we got this tradition that we all think that... So let's bow our heads and pray.
And if you think about it, when someone's praying and you have your eyes open, what does it makes us feel weird.
That's what I'm saying.
That we're looking around.
Can you imagine walking into a room full of people praying, and they're not down on their knees with their face down, but they're just standing there staring straight ahead, and you walk into the room and they're all praying, and you think they were talking to you. I mean, it would be, but it's a tradition. We don't know where it came from, but it's something that we just do.
Right.
And we think it's the right thing or the normal thing. So what Christmas traditions do you have? I want you to drop them down in the chat. We want to read those. So what kind of traditions do you have? Maybe it's one that you've carried since your childhood. And tell us, do you have any traditions that your parents or grandparents instilled in you, and then you kept the tradition going? Because we're going to share a couple of ours.
Right. You know, a few of mine are, I buy special ornaments every year for the kids. When the older two were here, they got one as well. And Hannah gets her own, and then I buy one for us to share. But we get something unique every year. And if we go on a trip, I'll buy an ornament from that location, and I put it on the tree as well for all the different places that we've been. And every year I make peanut butter fudge. A lot of you have ate the peanut butter fudge. And then I make sausage balls, and the kids love that. And I'll only make that at Christmas time. So they have that to look forward to. Mom, you're making a sausage ball. So they get excited about that. And then we always decorate our Christmas tree on December 1st, which is my husband's birthday. I usually have everything up by then, but we don't put the ornaments on until that day when everyone comes over and we eat for his birthday.
And so our tree doesn't look like your traditional tree.
Like the one behind us, maybe, that's decorated all fancy.
Right, where there's a lot of nice bulbs. Our main tree is deer heads and cheeseburgers and ice cream sundaes. Donuts. And Barbie dolls, because she has bought these ornaments for all of us. Actually, Alyssa was a baby, and my mother bought her one that was baby's first Christmas. And after that, she started buying them for Alyssa, and then, of course, Jared, and then Hannah, and then us.
And we have an accumulation of all these ornaments. And as the two older kids grew up and they've moved out, I give them a lot of theirs. I kept some for myself.
And when they come over and help us decorate the tree, Hannah puts hers on, Jared puts his on, and Alyssa looks for hers and puts her ornaments.
And she was here this year,
so
we got to do it. But
I just wanted to show you just a few of our Christmas ornaments on our tree. This is one that we had pictures made with us as a family at the old parsonage that we lived in, that we had put in here. This is one that I made when I was in primary school.
Here's one of my favorites, because there's a cheeseburger and fries. That was bought for me one year.
This is one of Hannah's. They're snow angels is what they're called. It has her name on it.
This is also Hannah's because it's ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the donut, which is my husband's, because, you know, you all know he loves donuts.
Oh, there's a donut on this side of the tree, too, because I have another donut that I have to have donuts surrounding.
And then we have Chewbacca on our tree, and then we have Darth Vader on our tree, you know, because he loves Star Wars. This is where we went on one of our trips to Roatan on our cruise. His love of hunting. And we had many more as well. This is a dog. This is an ornament from Germany, and I got this in Walt Disney World in the country Germany at Epcot when Jared was in Germany serving in the military. So this is just a few of our ornaments.
We don't decorate our natural or our family tree like a lot of people. We have ornaments that are bought each year, and that means something special,
meaningful to us. Yeah. And he has all of his Christmas toys are under the tree that he plays with. Those are all Christmas themed, so he plays with all those toys. Yes, he's an old dog, but he still plays with his toys. Hi, buddy.
Yeah, the older kids have started that tradition for themselves as well. So Alyssa said, me and Mason started buying ornaments every year for each other. So they have started a tradition that I started for them. Right. So.
And when I was little, I didn't have a very traditional childhood or traditional family per se, but there was always two cakes that my mom made. One was an applesauce cake and one was a snowball cake.
I remember that one.
Yep. And she made them every year. And that was, I remember that, but I haven't had it since my mother isn't here anymore.
I tried making the one. I mean, I could probably do it now. It's been a long time. Yeah. But, you know, I'm a lot better baker now than I used to be.
You have mom's recipe. But those were the two cakes that my mom always made. But there's one tradition that has been part of my Christmas for as long as I can remember, but we are dangerously close. This is Wednesday, the week of Christmas. We're dangerously close to this being the first Christmas that I haven't had eggnog, because somebody didn't buy me eggnog this year. And she always has bought me eggnog, but I've been waiting patiently every week
But
for
you've been
eggnog to
telling
appear
me you're
in the
not
cabinet.
eating bad anymore.
I know,
And
but they make them in little pints.
actually, no. I've not been able to find the small ones. So, but that's not, it's hard to find stuff at the grocery store, like what you've had to find in the past. But if you want eggnog, we'll get you
You ever
eggnog.
notice how most of our traditions center around something to eat or something? Sausage balls and peanut butter fudge and
Food.
eggnog.
We are Americans. But I don't think there's any doubt that traditions make the holiday sweeter.
Yeah.
Because that's things that you look forward to.
Right.
Every season. It might be a special tree that you get every year, or even a special food that you make, or maybe just being together at a certain relative's house. But they are a big part of what we remember at Christmas time. I remember for years we got a live Christmas tree. And, you know, we've had some good ones and we've had some bad ones.
We had a stabby one time.
We had a Scotch pine one year, and I didn't know that Scotch pines were very prickly, like sticky, and they made you bleed. And, you know, there was Fraser firs. There's like a whole list. Well, I didn't know, so I'm like, we'll just go get this one. And we had to wear gloves to decorate the tree. We had to wear shoes when we would go around the tree. I mean, Hannah would cry. She stepped on them, got the pine needles in her feet, and then her foot was bleeding. And so, like, for about 2 or 3 months after, we're all still stepping
It was
on
July.
these
Man,
needles.
we were still stepping on in the carpet.
And Hannah would cry, and she would say, "Mommy, why does this tree make me cry?" Because it was just so painful. But
and me and Jared trying to get the tree out of the house when it was time to come down. It was,
and the needles
couldn't
would
reach,
go
and it was
everywhere.
and it felt like you were trying to exorcise Freddy Krueger out of the house, and it was slicing you and stabbing you.
But we did this because Jared wanted real trees growing up, and so we did it. And what do you do for your kids? You do those small requests for your kids. It was fun just to go cut the tree down and do all that. But then when he moved out, when he went to Germany, and then I said, you know, he's not here anymore. We should probably just go back to an artificial tree to where we don't have stabbing needles.
Yeah,
And
they're less violent, the artificial ones here.
they're nice, but they are very messy.
Yes.
So, you know.
There's something about traditions that aren't as much fun, and that's when they come to an end.
Oh, yeah.
And you just mentioned it, you know, when Jared went to Germany and then we stopped getting the live trees. Sometimes traditions are there for a long time, and they just feel like, and some of you are probably part of big families, especially if you've got like an Italian heritage or Greek heritage, and you guys have passed things down from generation to generation. I know all of you, I'm not like that, and she's not like that, but some of you are part of those kind of cultures that pass things from generation to generation. But those of us that don't have that, a lot of our traditions at some point come to an end.
Yeah.
Because the kids are no longer there, or maybe a marriage breaks up, or maybe mom was the one that was keeping, or dad was the one keeping it, and they're no longer there, and nobody picks it up and keeps it going. Life is not static. It's
Right.
fluid. It's always changing. And from year to year, you may not notice it. You may not notice how from one year to the next year something changes, but you will notice from decade to decade things that change.
Right.
For instance, when the kids were little, you didn't notice the difference between the presents they got when they were 4 and 5.
Mm-mm.
They were pretty much the same kind of presents. They were ride-on toys or
Right.
dolls or action figures. They're pretty much the same. But when a kid is 4 versus when they're 14,
Oh, yeah.
there's a big difference. And then when they're 14 versus when they're 24,
Mm-hmm.
there's a big difference. So a decade, you look back and you're like, man, our whole Christmas has changed.
It
It
does.
doesn't look anything like it used to, because it looks very different from decade. Maybe not from year to year. So the little small incremental changes you don't notice.
Right.
But then looking back over a 10-year span, you're like, wow, it's really changed
Life
a lot.
has really changed.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of people get very depressed during the season
Yes.
because they don't recognize Christmas anymore, because it don't look like their traditions, the way things used to go for so long, and that sudden change let's just all be honest, it makes you sad or depressed. Life moved on, but you didn't. Like, you're still stuck right here. This is the way it's supposed to be, and I don't know what to do anymore. The kids are grown, and now they have kids of their own. They do their own thing. The real tree was replaced by the artificial one. And that was eventually replaced by nothing. I remember going to my mama's house, and she always put up a big tree. And then I remember going one year, and she had a little tree on the table, and I fussed at her. I said, Mama, where's your tree? She said, I did put up a tree, Sissy. It's right there. And it was a smaller one. And I said, but that's not what we're used to. And she said, but I'm older now, and I can't do what I used to do. And, you know, things, they change. The thing that made traditions great was the anticipation and the joy that it brought. You know, I remember getting all of us together going to Mama's, and now that she's passed, that doesn't happen anymore. Like, we're all over the place. Like, some of us are in South Carolina, and I'm up here, and like, we don't even see each other. And that's really difficult for me since that happened, because she was like the center of all of that, and that was the tradition. But if we're not careful, we lose our ability to keep making new traditions because we get stuck where the old traditions stopped.
And I call this missing the miracle of the moment. What we tend to do is we live in the past. We fantasize, romanticize about the past.
We make it, in our eyes, we make our memories, I think, sometimes a lot better than what they really were in the moment.
Like a Norman Rockwell painting or something.
And it's not.
No,
because
it always snowed on Christmas, and it was always a moonlit night.
Everybody was happy.
And everybody was happy, and everyone was getting along, and the kids were quiet. And
it's just not.
And it wasn't the reality. Go back and watch the home movies. You'll see that all of that is not. You know, we watched one not long ago when Hannah and Alyssa was in, and we were at our first church in the parsonage, and Jared and Alyssa were the only two we had. And Alyssa was trying to be nice to Jared, and she was trying to hug him because he just opened a present.
And he pushed her.
And he pushed her down and got violent and was about to jump on her and, like Tarzan, attack her here on Christmas morning, the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And Jared is going full Wolverine on
he was not even 2,
and he wasn't even 2 years old. But if we're not careful, we will miss the miracle of the moment that we're in because we're so stuck in where we used to be. And that's really what the first Christmas was all about. See, the Jews had only ever really known the traditions of what you read about in the Old Testament, what we call the law of Moses. That's all they had ever known. They knew how to follow the law. They knew how to have festivals. They knew how to bring offerings. They knew how to have family worship. They knew how to have ceremonies. They knew even the story that there was going to one day come a Messiah. They were, every year on Passover, they would repeat to each other and teach it to their children. One day the Messiah is going to come. They knew the story and was expecting the Messiah. They sang songs about the Messiah. They heard the promises from the scriptures. They told the stories to one another as often as they could. And that was the world that Mary and Joseph grew up in. Mary and Joseph grew up in the Old Testament teaching of the law, where their traditions was to hear about one day the Messiah is going to come. They knew the words to the songs, and they had been expecting a miracle their whole life. And then an angel shows up
and changes their whole world
and tells Mary that she's going to get pregnant with the Messiah from the Holy Ghost.
Yes. Luke 1 says, the angel told her, "Don't be afraid, Mary, you have found favor with God. You will become pregnant, give birth to a son, and name him Jesus. He will be a great man, and he will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his ancestor David. Your son will be king of Jacob's people forever, and his kingdom will never end." Mary would have known that traditions say that those names mean the Messiah. That this wasn't just another baby, but this didn't seem to fit in the traditions. Surely the Messiah wouldn't be born like this by me right now.
Right.
This is not convenient.
I'm not
This
even
is
married.
not, yes, this is not the way this is supposed to go.
Right.
It don't feel right because it didn't match the traditions.
Right.
Mary had a decision to make. Would she embrace this new thing that was being presented to her, despite it not looking traditional in the traditional image that she had in her mind, or would she say, this can't be, it's not right?
Right. Would she miss the miracle of the moment? Because tradition.
This is not what I thought it was supposed to be. I thought it was supposed to go this way, but
Right.
God is doing things different.
This doesn't feel like what I have always experienced. And if you can't get centered on the miracle that's in the moment, you'll miss it because it doesn't look and feel like what you've always experienced.
Right.
But her answer was in verse 38, I am the Lord's servant. Let everything you said happen to me.
Right.
So now we know, reading the story, that Mary said yes. And we know that when the angel showed up to Joseph, he said yes.
Right.
It was very inconvenient for them. It was scandalous. It was non-traditional. It didn't fit their previous ideas about what it was supposed to look like, or even what their life was supposed to
And
look
they
like.
had to hear and deal a lot with the public and people around them,
Yes.
and everybody that knew them and didn't know them, and rumors. People would spread gossip and talk about them because things weren't going the way it's supposed to go.
Right. So when I talk about the miracle of the moment, it was Mary and Joseph's opportunity to experience God in a brand new way. Because it wasn't tradition. It wasn't the way they had been taught or what they had experienced through
Right.
their life. And we know that everybody did not experience God the same way, because John says this, he came to his own and his own received him not.
Right.
So everybody didn't receive Jesus. Mary and Joseph said, yes,
Right.
we will, even though it doesn't match what we thought life was supposed to look like. But a lot of people did not. And the reason most of the world rejected Jesus when he came alive was because their traditions told them that God can only move a certain way in a certain place with certain people. And because Jesus didn't look like that, they missed the miracle that was standing right in front of them because they were stuck in traditions. But God had moved past their traditions into a new thing.
That's so scary to think that, God could be doing something great right in our midst,
Right.
and we don't see it
Right.
because we think things should have been a certain way.
Should have been a certain way. And see,
And then we get bitter and
right.
and resentful and
And miss the miracle of the moment.
right.
See, the Old Testament was God's way of preparing the world to receive Jesus.
Right.
The Old Testament was not meant to last forever. But the people stuck in their traditions couldn't imagine a world where the law was just a memory.
Right.
Some of you can't imagine Christmas where your kids aren't in pigtails. You can't imagine. So you don't want to celebrate Christmas. You don't want to enjoy the miracle of this moment because it doesn't look like what it used to look like.
Right.
So if you hide yourself in traditions, you can miss the miracle
Right.
that's standing in front of you.
I wonder sometimes if a lot of our sadness that we have comes because we don't recognize what God's doing right now
Right.
in our life.
Yes.
We look at Christmas and see it's not what it used to be. All of our traditions seem to be gone, but people we shared it with are not with us anymore.
Right.
But shouldn't Christmas be more than a certain way in a certain place with certain people?
That's what they thought in the Old Testament.
They
God
said-
can only move this way with these people at this time.
But we do that now.
And we do it now.
We do it in church. We think that we're supposed to come in, church is supposed to be a certain way, or our family is supposed to be a certain way. And anytime anything gets out of that order that we have set up in our mind, it's not right.
Right.
But that's not the way God does things.
Right.
Usually God does things differently than what you already think.
He said to Isaiah, behold, I do a new thing.
I do a new thing.
Yeah.
And so
And he always told us his thoughts was above our thoughts.
I think that's
His
why
ways are higher than our ways.
God is always doing new things, and why he's always implementing change and things, because he doesn't want us to get complacent, to stay right where we're at. He's saying, I am God, and
Right.
I can do and move and change however I want
Right.
to.
So I know that in 1995, your mother was still alive and your children were still small, and you had all this Christmas joy, and you don't feel like you can anymore because you haven't moved past 1995.
Right.
And I wonder how many of us have missed the miracle of the moment when God is standing in front of us trying to do a new thing,
Right.
trying to start new traditions, trying to start a new way of enjoying Him.
Right.
He came to earth for us to enjoy. Emmanuel, God with us, for us to enjoy fellowship with Him.
Right.
That's what He came for. And I wonder how many of us have missed Him because we're stuck in our traditions. It's not that we're wrong. It's just there's sadness and this longing for things to never change. And life changes. But the thing about God is He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. So when life changes, we have to find a new way to find appreciation for the new thing.
Yeah. And so, this Christmas morning, whether you wake up and, you've been sad or you've lost a family member or you're alone, whatever it is, to know that God is there, and it doesn't change what Christmas is and what the meaning of Christmas is, because we have Christmas because of Jesus. Jesus was born to come to earth to save us of our sins.
Yes.
And that's what Christmas is. And the joy of the Lord is your strength.
Yes.
And I know that there's many of you that'll probably be watching that are going through a lot, and some worse than others. And we all think that our situation is the worst situation. And some of you are having the best Christmas of your lives today, while others are not.
Right. And that's the miracle of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That no matter what position you are in life, no matter where life has you, God is always the same.
He is.
And no matter, He can do great things because it's the miracle of this moment. He can do great things no matter when you need it, where you are in life, and who is or isn't there.
Right.
The kids grow up and they move away and they start having kids of their own and they start doing their own Christmas. That doesn't mean you stop having Christmas, because Christmas was never about those moments anyway. It was about Jesus, and He's still with you. He's still very relevant and very real.
Yes. So we hope that you have a good rest of your day, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. We love
And
you.
we will see you on New Year's Day.
New Year's Day. It's amazing. 2023. Here we come.
Here we go.
God bless you.
God bless you. We
Merry
love you
Christmas.
all. Merry Christmas.